This is Mansplaining. My name is Lebo Poonyane.
I'm and the two of us decided to begin this journey of just creating spaces for men to reflect on what it means to be a man in the 21st century. Our task is really to journey with men, listen to different stories, but to create an environment where we can all just learn and grow with each other. It's a journey.
Yep. So if you're interested in mansplaining about their spirituality, their traumas, and all things important about being a man in the 21st century, this is the place for you to come to.
Mansplaining is for me, for you, it's for all of us. So join in and be part of our journey.
Welcome everyone. My name is Lebo Poonyane. This is Mansplain, the show that we have put together to kind of bring men together and to ensure that we can talk about things that are important to us in our lives and to hopefully build a better society through men and for the lives of our people. This section, we've decided to include short explainer videos on topics that we find particularly interesting, things that we're reading in the news, some changes that are coming up in our country. Some will be about finance, some will be about investments, maybe even the Bible, who knows, about politics, etc. And we've decided to do these short videos, just hopefully share our perspective on specific things and hopefully be helpful to people in their lives about these things that are coming up, and to drive us to ask some questions around some of these things instead of just accepting things for what they are, because there's no such thing as things as what they are, especially if they impact your life. So this one is a short explainer video on a finance related topic, which is an add-on to our finance episode that we've recently aired. And on this, I want to speak in particular about a topic that's come up in the news quite a bit, which has to do with like pension funds, this new two-part system that we're seeing in our country, and its impact, or at least the way I'm thinking about it and what I'm seeing its potential impact to be. Obviously, because it's finance and investment related, I must state that this is not financial advice to anyone. This is me sharing my perspective on what I've read. If you do want some financial advice, please do get in touch with a registered financial advisor, someone who knows this topic a bit more deeper than what I do. I know I'm going to get in touch, or have gotten in touch with my investment advisor on some of these. Now, before I get into too much depth about the two-part system, I want to start with a bit of context around kind of why do pension funds or pensions exist? What's their reason, right? So very simply, and you should know this, like your employer will take a portion of your salary and put it towards some sort of a pension fund in order to allow you, the person who's the worker, to be able to continue to sustain your lifestyle beyond your working years, right? So by the time you turn 65 and you retire, you'll then be able to access those retirement funds, and they should be able to get you through the remainder of your life. Okay, so what does that mean? It means over your working life, 20, 30, 40 years that you're working, you need to ensure that you've put away enough funds or enough money in your retirement fund to be able to sustain you for the remainder of your life. So if you retire at 65, you take average average life age of most South Africans is about 70, 75, call it 80 on average. So let's assume it's 80. It means you need to have enough money to carry you for the next 15 years after you retire, to keep your lifestyle where it is already at. Okay, so that's the main reason why pensions exist. Now, most people already in our country, because we have a little bit of a undeveloped or not well-developed savings culture, most people do not already today save enough for their retirement, but that's a topic for another day. But keep that at the back of your mind for this conversation. The number two, what happens is, so who takes care of your money when it comes out of your salary? It goes to a pension fund, right? So I'm not gonna mention names, but essentially the one that's well known is the government one, is like, the government employees pension fund, which then has the PIC, etc., manage the money on their behalf. So what does the government employees pension fund do with your money? Okay, In simple terms, what they are meant to do is find projects or investments locally and elsewhere where when they invest your money, there's some sort of return or interest that that money is going to get to allow that pot of money that they've invested in to be worth more by the time you need to access that money. So there's two big things they need to do. One is they need to preserve your capital, meaning whatever money you put in there, if you put in 100 Rand today, you should at least get that 100 Rand out by the time that you access your retirement. That's number one. Number two, they need to find projects that will earn money on here, on this 100 Rand. So those projects, this is the interest or the return that they're supposed to do. And what a pension fund does is they hire smart guys, investment managers, guys who will look around the different potential investments out there, be it listed assets or stuff that's on the JSE. Some nowadays private markets are very attractive, so but they need to get you a return, so that by the end of your life, of your working life, that is, you are able to access this money and you can still live. And they have not lost value. That's important. Okay, so your 100 Rand must come back at least as 100 Rand. If you're lucky, it's 100 Rand plus a little bit more. Okay, so that's why pension funds exist. Now, where do these investment managers in these pension funds get the projects? It means that the country that we live in has to be creating some sort of economic growth. So there have to be projects out there that these investment managers can invest in. And there have to be companies that these investment managers can invest in that are growing over time. Meaning if you put money in this thing and the share in this company is worth 1 Rand today, by the time you retire, that share should be worth 5 Rand, for instance. Or they find projects where the government says, hey, we're going to build roads, we're going to build bridges, we're going to build hospitals, etc., etc. And those investments, or when your money goes into those investments, whatever return the government makes from those needs to go back into your pot of money, effectively, right? So the economy has to be growing. So these three things have to at least exist in order for the retirement environment to work. In a very simple explainer, that the way I explain it to myself, very rudimentary. It's okay. So at the end of your life, at the end of your working life today, you have one pot of money, which is your retirement pot. Okay. So let's say you've worked for 20 years and you've saved 1,000 Rand. Okay. That 1,000 Rand today, you would be able to access all of it at retirement in whatever form that your retirement plan kind of works. So maybe you access it monthly. Some people pull the money out iphelele, and then there's tax on that 1,000 Rand, etc. Or you access it however you want. That's today's situation. Okay, meaning you have been in a forced discipline of putting money away, right? Because the employer takes it every month for 20 years that you are working, and by the end you end up with this 1,000 Rand, and you're supposed to then use that 1,000 Rand to help you to lead the rest of your money. Cool? So that's one pot today. Pot A1, right? This new system, okay, and I have no opinion whether it's good or bad. This is just all that I'm reading. So what's now happening with the new system is you're going to move from having one retirement pot and you're going to have two retirement pots that are named differently, okay? So essentially, you're moving from one pot to two pots. But how these two pots are going to work is, remember in this pot, you've saved 1,000 bucks, 1,000 Rand. You're going to take, or with the new system, what's going to happen is 33%, 1/3 of this pot is going to move into a new small pot called your savings pot. Okay, so that's 33%, okay, 1/3. And then the remainder is going to move into your new retirement pot. So now going forward, as of the 1st of September 2024, you're going to have a savings pot and a retirement pot. Okay? Savings pot, retirement pot. You may ask yourself, like, okay, why? Why do that? The reason it's happening is because the regulator or whoever's come up with the system wants you to be able to access a portion of your pension today, or earlier than what you would normally be able to access it under normal circumstances. Okay? So what's going to happen is you're going to have 33% of your retirement contributions will be going to your savings pot, and 66% will be going to the retirement pot. On day one, what will happen is 30,000 Rand of your current retirement pot will be moved into your savings pot. The remainder will go into your retirement pot. Okay, so on day one, your savings pot starts with about 30,000 bucks. Okay, then the rules that apply are as such. Every single year, every calendar year, okay, I call it Feb to Feb, every single year, you are allowed to withdraw at least 2,000 Rand from your savings pot. You cannot touch the retirement pot. Very similar to how this old retirement pot used to work. Okay, but you can now, out of, let's say you have 30,000 in this pot, every year you can access a minimum of 2,000 Rand from this savings pot. Okay, so it's minimum 2,000. There is no maximum. Okay, so if you wanted the full 30 grand, you can go in one calendar year, you access it once, you can take the full 30 grand, use it for whatever you want to use it for. Okay, good or bad, not so sure. Then you are left with this portion in your retirement pot. So what does that mean? In my mind, it means that at the end of your working life, when you turn 65, with this new system, depending on your financial behavior and depending on what you decide to do, you could end up in a situation where you have less at the end of your working life than what you would have under the old system. Right? Because remember, under the old system, you could not access any of the money. Right? So that was that. Today, you can access some of the money. So what does that also mean then for these investable projects that investors or pension fund managers have to go find? It means, naturally, that they now have less capital to actually dedicate to some of these things. Okay? Because remember now, they need to put a portion of the money aside for you to be able to access, should you want to access it. That's in the savings pot. Okay? And automatically the contributions that are coming out of your salary that are going towards these investment projects for return purposes are now less than what they were in the old system. That in itself is something to ask a question about. Okay, this thing, like how am I, from a return perspective, an interest perspective, to simplify the language, how am I going to end up in the same situation at the time when I retire as the old system? Okay, second thing to consider. Third thing is, with the old system, you were taxed once when you accessed your retirement funds, or you were taxed at the time that you accessed your retirement money. Okay? Today, with this new system, you are taxed every single time you want to access your savings pot. Okay? So if you access 2,000 bucks, which is the minimum, the receiver of revenue will tax you on that 2,000 bucks. So you're not going to end up with 2,000 Rand in your account. They will tax you at the same rate that you are currently taxed in your kind of personal income, in your income tax bracket, right? At the same rate. And you remember, in South Africa, we have like something from 10 to about 45% tax rate, right? So if you are in this 45% kind of tax bracket, you can ask yourself some questions, right? If you are accessing 10 grand, you might end up with only 5,500 Rand in your thing. So what does that then say? Like, I keep asking myself the question, like, why would they allow this to happen? Why this change? There's a couple of reasons. One is, I think people in general are financially constrained, right? So we want to have access to more cash. But because the economy is not growing as quick as it should, the government can't like provide people with jobs or enough jobs, etc., in order to keep up with the need or with the demand from the country. So let's create another way for people to kind of access cash. Cool. Seems like a decent enough thought through strategy from the government, because it gives you an opportunity to access cash today. But the cash you're accessing today is supposed to be long dated money, right? Meaning it's money that's meant to sit somewhere and for a long time earn interest. So it's meant to be like lifetime money. But the use of that money, today, you can use it for short-term things. You can draw the money out via your ByteDance or draw the money out via your washing machine or whatever. Hopefully you invest it in something that's going to give you a higher return than what you would get from your investment pot now. Okay. Number 3 is it gives the fiscus or the government or the country an additional revenue line of tax. Right? Because remember, now they can tax you today on that money. That didn't exist a year ago, for instance, right? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Look, I don't know. As long as the tax is, if you assume the tax is being used for projects that are going to deliver high return and are going to be good for the country, then I guess it's a good thing. But in this instance, you have to think of it from your perspective. So I'm thinking of it from mine, right? It's like, okay, if I give these guys a portion of my retirement savings today, right, and they take that tax, could I have used that money better elsewhere as an investor, or as a, could I have invested it in something like a property that gives me a higher yield or a higher return, et cetera, than what I believe the government is going to do with the money? That's for you to decide, okay? I have my own views on that. So, simple terms, this is what this two-pot system now looks like. Go back to first principles, the first things that I explained. Does it still meet the principles and the requirements of why pensions were created in the first place? Does it still meet the muster on what pension funds are meant to be used for, right? And then number 3, like, what does it mean for you in your life personally if you go and you withdraw from money you're supposed to be spending when you're 70 years old, but you're only spending it now when you're like 45 or 50 or whatever? These are some of the questions that I think we need to ask. That was a short explainer video on the savings and investment environment, finance related, in particular on the two-pot system. If you have any more questions, please feel free to shoot us some questions on the comments. Get in touch with us. Let's see if we can maybe get someone to come in and speak to us about this two-pot thing who's a bit more qualified to talk about it. My name is Lebo Poonyane. This is Mxnzplain. Thank you.